Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Session Talk with our friends over at Branch Atlanta, where we talk about bills that are going through the Georgia State Legislature. We want to make sure everyone is staying educated and gets a better understanding of what is happening in some of the bills. As always, please welcome the one and only Lexi Jenkins. Welcome, Lexi.
Thanks, Hannah. Happy to be here.
We're always happy to have you here. As many of y'all know, because y'all have been tuning in, Lexi is she is a analyst as well as head over the legislative research department for Branch Atlanta, and is registered with the California Bar. So Harvard Law School background. We're just incredibly honored to have you here with us, and we'd love to dive right in. So if you are joining us, by the way, where are you tuning in from? Have you been paying attention to all the bills that are going through the state legislature? We'd love to know what city or what state you're watching from. Drop a comment, let us know. We'll make sure to shout you out toward the end. So Lexi, we'll kick it over to you.
So things have really been ramping up in the General Assembly, especially in the past week. So before, when we've done the session talk, we've been talking about bills that had just been introduced. And today we're going to talk about bills that are actually starting to move through the chambers and getting closer and closer to that final step of becoming law. So our first bill that I wanted to talk about is SB 85, and it changes laws around hazing. So this bill is a Senate bill that was already passed in the Senate, and now it's being considered over in the House. So what this bill would do would strengthen criminal and civil penalties around hazing, and it defines hazing pretty broadly. So it encompasses like physical punishment, any dangerous activities, encouraging people to excessively drink alcohol, but also ingesting food and water excessively. Basically anything that can put students' lives or minors' lives at jeopardy on college campuses. So it increases the penalties for those offenses. So if somebody is seriously injured or dies, it is now a felony offense that comes with, if they're seriously injured, it's 1 to 5 years in prison or a $50,000 fine. And if they die, it's 1 to 10 years in prison with a fine of up to $50,000 as well. If the victim is not seriously injured or dead, the offense would be a misdemeanor, punishable by up to a year in prison and also a fine of $50,000. I think what's really noticeable is that it also criminalizes being a bystander of hazing and not doing anything to help. So under this bill, that would be a misdemeanor as well, with a sentence of up to 1 year in prison and again a fine. It also allows the State Attorney General's office to bring civil court cases against organizations that allow hazing.
Those are really strong consequences there. And I mean, I imagine this has come from a history of different incidents that have happened. We've heard a lot in the news on college campuses in different forms. And so I'm interested to see what are supporters saying and what are people who don't support it saying.
Yeah, so like you were mentioning, this bill actually comes out of one specific incident. So Max Grubber was a student at Louisiana State University who is from Roswell, and he died from hazing in 2017. So this act is named in his honor. Senator John Albers, who's a co-sponsor of the bill, says that this act would honor his legacy while helping to keep kids safe and make sure that our students and our parents are making good decisions when they enter into these organized groups.
Yeah, wow. I see somebody said finally, so it looks like maybe somebody here is happy to hear about this type of bill. Would love for you to elaborate a little bit more, Meteka Shetu, if you have any other thoughts on this bill that would really amp up the consequences when it comes to hazing. So thank you so much for weighing in on that first bill. And then I just want to acknowledge some of the people who are joining us right now. I see some brothers and sisters tuning in from different parts of the world. Of course, we have always Atlanta in the building, so shout out to Atlanta and Georgia. I see we have Malik, a young community leader in here, so we love you, Malik, and we're so glad you're here. So we'd love to kick it off to the second bill for the day.
So the second bill is a Senate bill as well, and this one has also been approved in the Senate, so now it's going over to the House for consideration. So this bill is another voting bill, and it requires that counting of absentee ballots starts 8 days before the election. So what currently happens is the mail-in ballots are coming in all the time once people get them and start returning them. So the counties have them kind of piling up. And what they can do now is start processing the ballots, which means like removing the envelopes, getting them ready to be counted, but they can't actually start counting them until the day of the election. So this bill would change that and start the counting along with the processing 8 days before the election. And the big effect that this would really have would be in how we're seeing results come in for the election. So I think everyone remembers on election night in 2020, things started out looking a certain way. And then as more mail-in votes were counted, the results shifted to what they ultimately were. So this phenomenon kind of occurs because Republican voters tend to vote in person at higher rates, and Democratic voters tend to vote by mail-in ballots at higher rates. So if the mail-in ballots aren't counted until later, as opposed to the in-person votes getting tabulated right away, then you're going to see those big bumps in the return.
How likely is a bill like this to get passed?
So this bill, I mean, it's already in the second chamber, so it definitely has support. If it wasn't going anywhere, it wouldn't have even made it to that step, because there are plenty of bills that have been introduced and either haven't been assigned to committee or are going to die in committee. Next week is going to be a really big week for that, because we have what's called crossover day. So crossover day is kind of the do or die day for bills. So bills that haven't moved on to the second chamber are going to be dead. So I'll have a massive update for you all next week as we see that happening. But I would say with this bill, since it's already passed into the second chamber, the chances are actually pretty decent.
I love that you're giving us that breakdown as well, because as we all know, there's two chambers in the legislature. You have the Senate and the House. So the past almost month, it's been with the House, and now crossover day is on Monday, which means bills are headed to the Senate, and it's going to be, you know, a lot of work from that side. So we really appreciate you breaking that down. It's so important that we get a better understanding of how this system works, and you do it in a way where it's easy to understand. So we really always appreciate that, Lexi. And I would love to pass it over to you for the third bill for the day.
Yes, so the third bill is actually a House bill. So this one, when we originally reported on it, it had just been introduced in the House, but this one has moved along really quickly. So it was already passed in the House 2 days ago, so it'll be moving on to the Senate. So this bill increases the standard deduction for state income taxes. If you're a taxpayer, you probably already are very familiar with what a standard deduction is. But for those of us who don't know, maybe for some of the younger or international viewers in the US, you have your tax deduction. So you itemize everything that decreases, basically that's like deductible. So medical expenses, donations to certain charities, you can itemize all of that and take the specific amount out of your taxes. Or if you don't have all those receipts or you don't want to do that, anyone can take the standard deduction. So the standard deduction is a set amount that you'll automatically be able to deduct from your taxes if you're a taxpayer. So this bill specifically would change the standard deduction for single taxpayers from $4,600 to $5,400. For married taxpayers filing separately, it would increase from $3,000 to $3,550. And for married taxpayers filing jointly, it would go from $6,000 to $7,100.
Interesting. And what are supporters and opposers saying about this?
Yeah, so Representative Angelica Kosh, who's a Democrat from Johns Creek, she actually commented to Branch specifically about this bill. And she said that, I'm just going to quote directly, she said that this bill provides a much needed upward adjustment to the current state's low standard deductions. However, the tax cuts would be relatively small, and it would cost the state about $120 million a year. While I do support this bill and I do appreciate its intent to give relief to struggling Georgians by raising the standard deduction, I don't think it goes far enough.
So they want it to go farther.
Yes. So yeah, this rep specifically would like to see, she does support this bill, but she would like to see a larger standard deduction. And I'm sure a lot of taxpayers would like to see a larger standard deduction as well.
Okay. All right. So many people right now are taxpayers in this. So thank you for breaking that bill down. And, you know, one thing that is interesting too, I'm certainly learning a lot about this process, just having these conversations and, you know, some of the work we do in the community. But, you know, there's amendments that could be made, right? So they essentially could propose an amendment to a bill that already exists. So something like this, there's always a possibility where they could amend it and then pass it with newer measures or language, right? So that's always interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that happen to a lot of bills so far this session. So now that things are kind of moving through the chambers, we provided a new section of our emails that provides updates on all the bills that we've already covered. So if you read up on something that was covered way back in February, we have the updates to let you know as soon as that's moving through. And if there are any changes, we give a quick summary of that as well.
Y'all are awesome. And so everybody tuning in right now, if you could do us a couple favors, there's a link in the caption, right, that allows you to subscribe to Branch's newsletter. It is a daily newsletter, and they will send you these updates. They will send you bills that are getting through, that are going through, and they'll break it down in a very easy way to understand. And then also the second part of that is go ahead and like this video so we can make sure more people are seeing it. Like it, heart it, share it, so we can really spread the knowledge. And then also just be on the lookout, because, you know, we're all a part of our society. And so we have a viewer here who's joining us who had some comments about the hazing bill and the hazing related bill, that is. And, you know, you can reach out to your reps and senators and let them know if you agree or disagree with it, because they can use that, you know, whether they're in committees or testimonies, they can use those testimonies to support or fight against the bills. So if you're in support of it, you know, I just encourage you, let's use our civic power to make a difference and to elevate our voices. So I want to just read this comment here that says, Ohio State University had the same problem, and this is regarding the hazing-related bill, where Colin collapsed, where 9 students were charged, as well as LSU. You hear this as a parent, especially for those of us who have children on campus. It's hard to understand why it goes this far. And then follows up with, I'm just glad they came up with this bill. So I'm sure a lot of parents feel like that as well. I'm not too familiar about the specifics on the incidents you shared, so definitely would have to look up you know, the exact details. But it's sad, you know, no one wants to see anyone get killed on a college campus or lose their life. And so if you are in support of this bill, you know, one way you can exercise your voice is by reaching out. So Lexi, you have any comments on that?
Yeah, we a couple of weeks ago implemented a part of a newsletter as well, where it's super easy if you're interested in contacting your representatives to click and get their information. We also have, I believe we implemented them already. We have email templates letting your representatives know if you support or oppose a bill. So it is easier than ever to contact your representatives, and that contact is really crucial when it comes to their decisions about what they're going to do in committee. If they are your representative, if enough of people email them and contact them, they will listen. So I think this is a huge source of untapped power in our community. So yeah, subscribe to the session, follow along, and join your voice and all the voices that are coming together to talk about these bills.
I love that. A huge source of untapped power in our community. Y'all, let's tap in. Let's make a difference. Let's continue using our voices. Thank you again to Lexi, all of our friends at Branch, for this edition of the Session Talk. We'll see you all next Friday around the same time. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.